Now, the world's richest 2,153 people controlled more money than the poorest 4.6 billion people combined in 2019. I just want to say that again, it's just so that it sinks in. So the world's 2,153 people controlled more money than the poorest 4.6 billion people combined. Those are the 2019 figures. And that's according to charity Oxfam's annual Global Inequality Report for 2020. Also, unpaid or underpaid work by women and girls adds 3 times more to the global economy each year than technology industry. So let's delve into this because these are some really, really startling numbers. I'm joined now by Rukia Cornelius, a women's economic power leader at Oxfam South Africa. Thanks so much for coming through.
Thank you, Sakina. Thank you for having me.
So, looking at those startling statistics and just zooming in on women in all of this, I don't think it comes as a surprise that women are generally exploited, but the extent of the exploitation is perhaps what grabs one.
Yeah, absolutely. And the 2,153 people are in fact 2,153 men, which makes it even starker, right? And what we say in our Oxfam Inequality Report, and what we know, as you indicate, is that inequality disenfranchises women. We live through sexist economies, economies that are patriarchal, economies that when cuts are made, budgets are cut on public expenditure, as Tito Mboweni has announced, 5 to 7% potential cuts in public expenditure, and the ones who gets disenfranchised and who then carry the burden for the state, for public services, are women, and they carry that through many different ways, but particularly through their unpaid labor, the unpaid care work that they do. Water crisis is a good example. When a water crisis hits, as we have now, as we've just heard in the Eastern Free State, it is women who carry the burden of that. Women who have to walk longer to get water. Women who spend more time on unrecognized work, unpaid care work. And that's what our Global Inequality Report is highlighting this year, for South Africa particularly, and for around the world.
And of course, it's not just women who are not paid, it's those who are employed and paid, but grossly underpaid as well. And in South Africa, that particularly hits home when it comes to domestic workers.
Absolutely. I can talk about domestic workers until the cows come home. Domestic workers are probably 1.5 million domestic workers on average is what we have in South Africa. About 5,000 of them are paid fairly, are unionized, have their labor rights met. That's about
5,000 of the 1.5
million domestic workers. And that's because of the mobilizing and the organizing of unions, particularly that try, domestic worker unions that try and mobilize them. But so domestic workers earn lower than the minimum wage. They work longer hours. They are abused, they don't access, and since May of 2019 actually, because of the organizing of domestic workers, we now are able to have domestic workers access compensation for injuries. Before then that was not possible. And now we're organizing to make sure that that's done retrospectively. But the biggest challenge is that they, not only do they do the low paid or unfairly paid work, domestic work and care work in our homes, in other people's homes, they also do it in their own homes. And so they do a shift of work before they go to the work that they are unfairly paid for, and then they come home and they do another shift of work. And so they're in this perpetual cycle of reproductive labor, but that's not paid and that's undervalued. And we have many ways that we mobilize and that we've, through feminist economics and feminist economists, have figured out a lot of alternatives to how we can redress, transform the economic system, the sexist economic system that disenfranchises domestic workers. The same for healthcare workers. Auxiliary healthcare workers, the workers that are working in the Free State at the moment, no electricity, no water, they're going to homes. They're going to find people who need care, palliative care, home-based care, and that's done at a pittance or at no remuneration at all, and that's not counted in our economy. And that's for us the problem. How do we begin to count in our economy the unpaid care work that women do? So, for example, last statistic, I promise, women do about 12.5 billion hours of care work, both cleaning, cooking, taking care of children, maintenance, farming, subsistence farming, all of that they do, 12.5 hours a day. And if we were to calculate that, or what would that amount to in a monetary value? $10.8 trillion. And I can convert that to rands, and I can figure out what that means. But the biggest
to depress us even more.
But there are solutions.
Rukia, let me pause you there. Let's get the latest news at 8 from Leanne, and then we'll come back and continue this conversation because I think it's an important one and certainly an eye-opener. Leanne?